When I broke the news yesterday that Kyle Pitts got his extension, I thought it was a pretty fair deal. And now going back, doing a little homework, getting a nice night's rest, I believe that they knocked this out of the park, the Falcons front office, that is. Welcome into Falcons Today, presented by Prize Picks. You're hanging out with your guy Moose. Thanks for joining me today. So according to Zach Klein, and this is a very important tweet, so listen up. The new deal consists of a $3 million raise on top of the $15 million that Kyle Pitts was going to play on with the franchise tag. Next year's money in 2027 is fully guaranteed, and then none of the money after that is fully guaranteed. So Kyle Pitts is basically playing on a 2+1 deal. More on this coming up. I do believe the Falcons front office played this perfectly. They did, because it is a great deal for both sides. Kyle Pitts gets some nice guaranteed comfort, right? A little bit of security for the next couple of seasons with the opportunity to ball out and get another extension 3 years down the road. Because here's essentially what the contract breakdown looks like. $15 million, which was his franchise tag, plus a $3 million raise on top of it, making $18 million of this year's money fully guaranteed. $18 million of next year's money is fully guaranteed, equaling that 36 total of guaranteed money. And then there's no guaranteed money in 2028. It's all incentive-based. It's all what he earns, which is perfect for the Falcons, because if by the next 2 years Kyle Pitts doesn't perform, they can get out of the contract and not owe him any money. And it also works for Pitts. Because, like I said, he gets that security, and if he balls out the next couple of years, he can say, I want to get my next extension worth another 3 years or 4 years with the Atlanta Falcons, and that's where my second big contract would come in, and he's still in his 20s. It's a perfect win-win scenario for both sides. Oh, and you know who else believes me? Football Analysis. Kind of a generic name for a Twitter account, but they said the same thing. Love the deal. Kyle Pitts gets $36 million guaranteed. He can get another big contract in 2 years if it continues to play well. And if it doesn't work out, both sides can say, hey, thank you so much. We gave you your first contract. Take on off to free agency. And it's not like he didn't deserve it, right? I originally thought the Atlanta Falcons were not going to want to shell out $18 million after the Drake London extension, after what we think they're going to end up paying Bijan, but the numbers speak for themselves. Kyle Pitts statistically last year had a very, very good season. And it's not just the actual, 118 targets, 88 receptions, 928 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns. The advanced metrics also prove that he was a force when he was on the field. A 21.1%, so we'll just round down to 21%. 21% on the field target share. 1.7 yards per route run, and a 0.21 EPA per target. So Pitts, when he's on the field, is definitely a utilizable weapon for his quarterbacks. Does that mean that he's always going to have the best rapport with Michael Penix Jr.? No, but this deal clearly proves that the Falcons were like, okay, we're going to scratch your back. At the same time, we're going to scratch our own back. It's not a long-term commitment with too much guaranteed money. It's a 2+1 deal, and Ian Cunningham finds a way to make it work again. And the major reason for this is because over the next couple of seasons, the 3 players that you are going to be contractually bound to are Pitts, London, and Bijan. And Bijan here is an X factor. And the major reason for that is because his cap hit over the next couple of years is going to be big, it's going to be big. Maybe there's a chance that he restructures and lowers that cap hit, but for the most part, you could expect him to be in the top 5 for cap hits when he gets his new deal. I've got the entire breakdown coming up here in just a second. Do not go anywhere. And plus, we're going to talk some quarterbacks, some college quarterbacks on the back half of today's episode. Before I get to that, though, I got to remind you guys today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. 0 for 3 again. I missed by 1 leg again. That's 3 lineups in a row, JD. 1 leg missed. So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a slightly different approach on today's lineups, but I'm still downloading the Prize Picks app. I'm still playing every single day, and I'm still able to win real cash. while watching sports. So if you were confused on all the new features, right? Like you saw your stereotypical player picks, your flex play, your power play, maybe you want to try something different. You shake it up like I did today. We're going all team picks. I'm going Switzerland. Okay, I think they're going to win outright against Canada. Then I'm going Bosnia, and of course, Brazil over Scotland. It just makes way too much sense. So do me a favor. If you want to download this one specifically, go to the new social feeds feature, copy it in a single click, but download the Prize Picks app. Use code HMA to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code HMA to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Bijan's going to get more than $20 million a year. Now, that number specifically doesn't always translate to that specific cap hit, right? Just because he gets $20 to $22 million a year does not mean he's going to have a $20 to $22 million cap hit. There's different ways to kind of manufacture different types of cap savings. But I do want you to be very aware of who the highest running back cap hits are right now. This is per Spotrac. Excuse me, my apologies. I tried to swallow that down and I couldn't. Pause. Jonathan Taylor, $15.5 million, leads the NFL in cap hits for the 2026 season, followed by Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, and Christian McCaffrey. Now, I expect Bijan to be in this category right here. $14 to $15 to $16 million cap hit. Now, for a running back, that's high. For a total cap hit, that's not too bad, considering you've got wide receivers out there that have a cap hit of like $28 million. I mean, quarterbacks are $40+ million cap hits. So it's a balancing act. All of this comes down to Ian Cunningham's ability to kind of manufacture the cap, manufacture the contracts, the guaranteed money to make sure that free agent spending stays, that you can draft the reasonable and staying in budget with your draft picks, but also creating enough wiggle room in case you needed to make a big move that you could, right? Sports Illustrated drew it up perfectly. They said it perfectly when they dropped the most recent article that they had about the Falcons offseason. After the introduction of almost an entirely new front office and coaching staff, and reevaluating how the team went about their work, I believe the goal was not necessarily to immediately get better, but instead to restructure how the organization operates. This would set the franchise up to compete long-term instead of chasing short-term yearly success. Not a bad idea for an organization that has the second longest playoff drought in the league. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's what they're doing. They're paying the players that set up the core foundation of success for future years. It might be a big cap hit over the next 1 to 2 seasons, but those players are integral for the success of the team while you're not paying a quarterback. So that's why Kyle Pitts getting a 2+1 deal might look like a big number right now, but down the road, with the ability to move off of that, the Falcons are still in a really good spot. So I'll ask you this question before I move on to the quarterbacks. Is the Kyle Pitts contract an overpay? I don't think so. I think it's very appropriate. It did not reset the market. He didn't get top dollar for not top play. Bijan's going to get top dollar because he is the best running back in the league. Kyle Pitts is not the best tight end in the league. So I think it's definitely a no on this, but I think it's an appropriate amount of pay. Here's why it matters, like I had just previously said to you. You're not paying a quarterback. Tua is playing on a vet minimum deal. Michael Penix is still on his rookie deal. You could be paying a quarterback right now any number of dollar bills above $50 million a year. Take a look at the highest paid quarterbacks in the league right now. Dak Prescott's making $60 million a year. Matthew Stafford has the highest I don't even think this list is accurate, actually. I think didn't Stafford get his new deal, so he might be higher paid on an average per basis. But either way, I know that Stafford is the highest cap hit in the league for any quarterback. It's like $45 million a year. That's a tough spot to be in. Now, for the Rams' sake, it's not tough right now. They're doing the exact opposite of the Falcons. They're sacrificing future flexibility on the cap for Super Bowl wins right now. Well, the Falcons know that they're not contending this season for a Super Bowl. At least we don't think. So what they're going to do is do the right things, the smart things, play the long game, set up the players that are going to be here for future success while you're still trying to figure out the quarterback position. The Rams already figured theirs out. Grow the roster until you have a definitive answer at quarterback. And those definitive answers at quarterback are going to come by way of the draft. Sorry, I don't think Michael Penix Jr. and Tua are the longer-term answers, at least not right now. So look at the 2027 quarterback class. There are 9 players, actually 10, that you could consider are all going to be able to play at the next level. Now, by the law of averages, not all 10 are going to hit, right? You would think 4, maybe 5 hit. So half of these players are going to hit, which is why if we expect that the Atlanta Falcons are going to do better things this year, then it would be reasonable to assume that you might not want to draft one during the first round. So let's go through some hypotheticals really quick. Again, hypothetical. For anybody who's like, that'll never happen, Moose, it's a hypothetical, okay? Here's how I could see the Falcons' 2026 playoff run going. The Falcons go 10-7. They win the NFC South. Hey, we're back in the playoffs. You compete in a playoff game, and you lose, right? Let's say that game's 28-24. Falcons lose, but they got back to the playoffs. Now we set up the foundation for future success. You draft then if you make the playoffs and lose in the first round between 19 and 22. Not necessarily a great spot to be drafting one of the top-tier talent quarterbacks. So what do? You draft a quarterback in round 2. So who are the players that I believe are going to be going in round 2, at least right now? This could change, obviously, as the college football season goes along. I'm fully aware of that. This is just for right now. The 2 guys that I could see right now being drafted in round 2 are Darian Mensah as number 1. So we'll touch on him, and then I'll tell you who the second guy is coming up in a little bit. Darian Mensah, the transfer from Duke over to Miami, is a very unique player. Not necessarily the highest ceiling, in my opinion, but a very high floor. Comes in at 6'3", 205 pounds, so he's a little slight on the frame. I'd like to see him a little bit heavier, right? Probably somewhere around 220, 225, 15 to 20 pounds would do him a lot of good. What are the pros? High volume thrower, he throws a lot. He's a touch passer and a low turnover rate. So all of those things translate to the next level. What are the cons? Well, he doesn't have a great arm. And he's not very good outside of the numbers because of that. His ball dies when he's throwing outside of the numbers towards the sidelines on long, intermediate passes. But the numbers still look really good from last year. 67% completion percentage, 3,900 yards in college, 34 touchdowns, 6 picks, and a PFF grade of 84.1. This is your classic high floor, low ceiling. This is a player that will carve out a very long career for himself just doing the little things right. Throwing with timing, throwing with anticipation, keeping a quick release, not panicking inside of the pocket. All of those things he does very, very well. He's just not going to be a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes or a Justin Herbert. Like, he doesn't have that build, and he doesn't have that rocket of an arm. But we've seen a lot of success from players that don't necessarily have the strongest arm. They win with their brains. The next player on all of this is Drew Mestemaker, who not quite the opposite of Darian Mensah, but certainly has different traits than Mensah does. First things first. He's 6'4", so he's an inch taller, and he's 211. I think, again, probably would like to see him closer to 220, 225. A little slight, but weight can always be added. What are the pros of his game? Well, he played, by the way, at North Texas last year. He transferred to Oklahoma State. He's a downfield thrower through and through. He throws with timing and anticipation. His deep ball is incredible. But his cons are he's got clunky mechanics, and the level of competition that he played at North Texas is not even close to what you would think. But again, numbers don't lie. 69% completion percentage, 4,300 passing yards in college, 34 touchdowns, 9 picks, and a PFF grade of 88.3. He didn't play a lot of high school ball, and therefore, obviously with the walk-on experience at North Texas, there's a lot of rawness here. He's the ultimate project to take on, because you could look at his kind of meteoric rise into playing competitive football and say, Holy cow. To go from a player that didn't play a ton to walking on to North Texas and now being at Oklahoma State and viewed as a first-round or second-round quarterback, you keep succeeding everywhere you go. But I don't know that his mechanics right now are good enough to compete at the level that you would expect him to day one. So it would be a draft and develop process. And good news for everybody else, if you're a Penix fan or a Tua fan, that gives them more time in the system to show what they're made of. Everybody wins. So that's how we're going to leave today's episode. Smash that thumbs up icon if you made it to the end. Subscribe to the channel if you made it to the end. We are at 54,512. That's got to get to 55,000 before the season begins. So sub right now. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Make sure that, like I said, you do both of those things. They're free. As always, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.